This season of Dana White Contender Series will see 3 Australians fight for a UFC contract. Or is it 4? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the Southern Cross Combat channel. I'm your host, Joel Rasmussen, and I thank you very much for joining me. And today, it is the beginning of the most wonderful time of the year. Yes, you might be thinking that song is about Christmas, but you would be wrong. It's actually about the 10-week period of Dana White's Contender Series. Yes, if you are an avid Australian mixed martial arts fan, or just a general a UFC fan, which you probably are if you're watching this video, and especially if you are subscribed to this channel, which you should be, you will know that Dana White's Contender Series is starting up as of the recording of this video, and hopefully the release, in 2 days. We are in the start of week 1 of Dana White's Contender Series, a 10-week, I almost said tournament, a 10-week show. It's a fight promotion. It's a different fight promotion. It's not the UFC. They made that very clear, but essentially, the best prospects around the world all fly to Vegas. Dana White has them fight each other, and the winners get a contract if you impress Dana White. We're on to season, I think this is season 9, maybe season 8. It's been running for between 8 and 9 years. I think we know what it's about, but in case you didn't, that's the layup of it. It is getting rarer and rarer to get signed directly to the UFC. Going through contenders is the new way to do it. Let me fix my hair a little bit. I feel like I could look a bit nicer. I did some research. It's like 30% of the current UFC roster comes from Dana White's Contender Series, and that number's just going to grow and grow. And we have 3 fighters officially on the signed for Contender. And so I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of who these people are, what they're about, where they come from. So if you maybe haven't been following the local scene, which is fine because that's my job, bro. You don't need to follow the local scene. It's my job, and I'll tell you what's going on. And without further ado, we will take it to the man who is fighting on the first week of Dana White's Contender Series. We will talk about George Mangos. George Mangos, who is, by all counts and measures, the biggest prospect coming out of Australia in the past few years. He is 7-0, all stoppages, 5 subs, 2 knockouts, and those 2 knockouts coming in his most recent fight, one via head kick, one by, I think it was 35 seconds on the feet with the hands. Definitely sub 40-second knockout. He's a featherweight, training out of Lionsden Academy in New South Wales. He's a young man who has really taken the scene really quick by storm. He made his professional debut back in 2023, in March of 2023. And in that, since March of 2023, he has gone 7-0, all stoppages. During his amateur career, he was also undefeated, securing all stoppages then. So he's got a 100% finish rate over his amateur and his pro career, which is nuts. Especially 100% finish rate in your amateur career. That's nuts. He's a guy who had a lot of hype in 2023, and you know, you began to see in 2023 you began to see the greatness that George would go on to achieve regionally in 2024. But you could begin to see those things, but it was in 2024 when it really came together for George, when he beat Justin Van Heerden to become 4-0, submitting Justin. That fight legitimized George. That fight made you realize, okay, this guy's legit. He's a real he's a real contender. He won a title in that, but I mean, like, he's a real. We need to put respect on George's name. He could be the guy. Because prior to that, he's fighting guys who have similar records to him. He fought a debutant when he was debuting. When he was 1-0, he fought a 1-0 guy. And when he was 2-0, he fought a 2-0-1 guy. So a guy who had more experience. And then he has this jump up at 3-0. He fought a guy who's 13-5. Justin Van Heerden, who was the best featherweight at that time in Australia regionally. And it was a great fight. And George had a lot of adversity there, but he rallied and got that finish. He then backs that up in September 2024, beating Jarrett Wilbraham, a guy who the UFC were very interested in Jarrett. They wanted Jarrett on the featherweight season of The Ultimate Fighter that was going on around that time. And George beat him, and he beat him in 2 rounds with a rear naked choke. And that is what made George undeniable, that it was like, okay, this is going to be somebody. George is going to be somebody. In that time then, he ended off 2024 getting a head kick KO in the first round. He had talked to me heaps about how I want to get a KO. I don't just want to sub people. I want to KO people, and he's done that in his last 2 fights. He won the Southern Cross Combat Australian Male Fighter of the Year award. He was Regional Fighter of the Year 2024. Putting on George is the guy. And he has been the guy for a while. And it's such a funny thing. In my interview with him, which you can watch here, or here, I think it's here, I say to George, like, I say it's been a long time coming for George to make the UFC. And not because he's been, obviously he's been working incredibly hard his whole life to get to this. But it's not that. It's like the fact that we've all felt that he's been ready and like leave the scene and go fight in the UFC. Like, I feel it's been inevitable that he would get this opportunity, which he does. He's on the first week. He knew he had the shot. He talks about this in my interview with him. I really would recommend checking that interview out. He knew he had the Contender Series shot in November of last year. He knew he would get a Contender Series offer, but he didn't want to get stale. He didn't want to just be, okay, cool, I got the Contender Series shot, I'm just going to hang out. So he took a fight against Ethan Thomas, a very, very, very high-level grappler, ADCC, not registered? Qualified? He made ADCC. A very high-level grappler in Ethan Thomas, and knocked him out in less than 34 seconds is what I've got written here. Knocked him out in less than 40 seconds. Less than 35 seconds. So for him to be getting this opportunity is huge. The whole scene is very interested to see how George Mangos performs. And he'll be fighting Radley Da Silva, who is 7-1 out of Canada, on the first week of Contenders, which will be a huge fight. From what the international people have told me, and my sources tell me, that essentially this fight is the best prospect out of Australia fighting the best prospect out of Canada. And so it's very, very, very interesting to see. And he is I really, truly believe George Mangos is the next big thing. Moving on next, we're talking about the next man who will be fighting on Dana White's Contender Series this season, repping Australia. We are talking about the middleweight, Mr. Cam Rowston. Cam Rowston is 11-3 with 10 of those 11 wins coming by way of stoppage, 7 submissions, 3 KOs. He's a guy who likes the grappling. He talked about that in my interview with him, which you can see here, one of these two. Cam, it's just because he likes the grappling, which he does enjoy. He said he enjoys controlling a man. Just because he is good at grappling, do not think this man could not strike. He is a 2-time King in the Ring champion, which is an incredibly high-level kickboxing tournament that has provided a platform to some of New Zealand's best strikers of all time. Israel Adesanya won it multiple times. Cam Rowston's won it multiple times. I don't know if Brad Riddell has won it, so I don't want to say that. Nikora Lee Kingi, who is a great guy coming up on the amateurs and on the regionals in New Zealand, he's won it multiple times. I think he's won it 3 times. I think Izzy won it 3 times. Cam Rowston is a Australian who's living and training out of New Zealand over at CKB, City Kickboxing. He's originally from Sydney, but he moved over there. He said he was going to move over there just to do a year of training, and that was like 6 years ago. He now lives and trains in New Zealand, training out of CKB. He is a coach out of CKB. Obviously, when you train at CKB, City Kickboxing, people know that for some certain names. So we have to mention it. Cam Rowston is a training partner of the great Israel Adesanya. He's also a training partner of the great Carlos Olberg and Navajo Sterling, 3 men who are in the UFC. So those are the people that he is training with every day, sharpening his tools with. Guys like Izzy, Navajo, and Olberg. This is, by his own admission, his take, this is his 3rd attempt on the Contender Series, following 1 loss and 1 fight that didn't happen, but not in that order. The first time he was on Contenders, the fight didn't end up happening, and then the second time he was on Contenders, he came away with a loss against Torres Finney. So he understands the weight of that, and he's going there to show that he is a guy who deserves to be in the UFC. He bounced back from that loss against Torres Finney with 2 submissions and a unanimous decision in that time, including one of them was like a calf slicer submission, which is nuts. I'm a big fan of the calf slicer. I think it's very funny. So I love that he hit the calf slicer. But wins over Blair Brataga. That's an incredible win. He stopped Blair. He submitted Blair. Blair's fantastic on the regional scene. Blair, I think, has got a big future ahead of him. So that's a great win. His last win with over Alfred Stoddart. He is fighting Brandon Holmes after he was originally meant to fight John Kuhneman. John Kuhneman pulled out of the fight due to he busted up his ribs. So now Brandon Holmes is stepping in. Brandon Holmes is 5-0 on the regional scene in America, with most of those wins coming by 3 TKOs or 3 KO/TKOs and 2 decisions. But yeah, so Cam knows obviously knows the stakes. He's a very funny guy, Cam. I would really recommend you check out our interview. It's just us basically having a laugh for an hour. But it's also very interesting, him talking about, he left home. He left all his family in New Zealand to move, in Australia to move to New Zealand to live. Obviously he's got mates at the gym, but he put that all at risk and moved away from the comforts of home to fight and achieve this dream. And so he is one step closer to doing that when he fights on the 2nd week of Dana White's Contender Series. Moving on next to the next man who will be fighting on Dana White's Contender Series. Moving on next to the next man and the final man who is officially announced for Dana White's Contender Series. We are talking about Brando Pericic. Who is another guy who is fighting out of CKB, an Aussie fighting out of CKB in New Zealand. Brando is 4-1 with an 100% finish rate. 100% finish rate. All of those finish... Oh, that's a lie. 3 of those 4 coming by way of KO, TKO, one of which coming by way of submission. All of those coming in the first round. Don't blink when Brando's out there, bro, because he has the capacity to end fights within an instant. 3 KOs, 1 submission. Also out of CKB, as I mentioned. He's originally fighting out of Adelaide. He moved over from Adelaide to New Zealand. He's fighting to be the first UFC fighter to come out of Adelaide, as far as I'm aware. In all of my research, I couldn't find a UFC fighter who had fought out of Adelaide or was originally from Adelaide that I was aware of. Don't come for me in the comments. His win over Ricky Beechin, I think, has aged incredibly well, because Ricky himself is going on a tear on the regional scene and he's doing very well. So Brando's beaten some very good competition in that regard. He didn't fight for 5 years due to a lack of opponents. They could not find this man a fight. No one wanted to fight Brando, mixed with COVID and all that stuff in there, like the shutdowns and all that stuff. Like he had a rough go of it. From his debut in 2019 until his second fight in 2024. But he is obviously here to make up for lost time. He'll be taking on Alicia Ellison. I think that's how you pronounce it. Elisha. I'm going to say Elijah. Probably Elijah. Now that I've said that out loud, it's probably Elijah. Probably. I don't know. He's an American guy. He's 5-1. Elijah is. 5-1. All of the four wins by KO, 1 win by submission, and that is on week 3 of Contenders. So we've got an Aussie on week 1, week 2, and week 3. So after that, after the first 3 weeks of Contender, we can just stop caring. It doesn't matter anymore, or does it? Now, as I mentioned in the introduction to the video, there are 3 men who are officially signed, but I think there is a fourth man who I think it would do you people, it would do you guys watching this video well to know about, and maybe just keep him in the back of your mind. I'm not telling you that this man is signed to Dana White's Contender Series. I'm just saying I think you would benefit from knowing about this guy ahead of this season. That's all I'm saying. Marwan Rahiki, a featherweight out of Lions Den Academy in New South Wales. And if Lions Den Academy sounds familiar, it's because the first man we talked about in this video, George Mangos, fights out of there. George Mangos' training partner, Marwan Rahiki. 6-0. All stoppages. 5 knockouts. 1 submission. He debuted last year. He won the Southern Cross Combat Debutant of the Year award. And in 2 years, less than that, in a year and a half, he might be on Dana White's Contender Series, and he is a man who could definitely I could see getting the call towards the end of the season, maybe a week 10, maybe a week 9, maybe a week 8, that kind of area. He has taken the scene by storm. He has unified the Hex and Beatdown titles, beating Semakade Kakembo in a fight that's a Fight of the Year contender this year. Spoilers for the end of year awards. That is a Fight of the Year contender. That will definitely be on the list. His win over Michael Barber really also kind of put him into that next level. His win over Michael Manu was also great. But the Michael Barber fight, because no one knocks out Michael Barber. Michael Barber's a guy who's got that granite chin. How many times has Michael's been KO'd? 3 times. But he's been hit with some huge shots. And Marwan didn't seem worried at all when he fought Michael Barber. He walked out there and just put it on Michael. And then same with Sem. And that answered a lot of questions that we had about Marwan. Marwan's like, if you KO everyone in the first round, I don't know if you can make it to the second round. And Marwan proved that, where he went 4 rounds with Semakade Kakembo, putting Sem on the back foot. Didn't look gassed at all. Both guys put in a great fight. That's why that fight's a Fight of the Year contender. But, you know, I'll wax poetic about that fight when the awards come. But he then pulls off the guillotine choke against Sem, who is a fantastic grappler in his own right. The question about Marwan, does he have a gas tank? And can he... the questions about Marwan, does he have a gas tank? And can he grapple? And he answered both of those questions. He then backed that fight up. He had already booked to fight for the Beatdown title. He backed that fight up, and he TKO'd Gabriel Schlupp in an incredible performance by Marwan. Bro did not look phased by one bit. 6-0, all stoppages, 2 titles. He took the belt that George left vacant. The belt stays in Lions Den Academy. The belt does not leave Lions Den, bro. It stayed in Lions Den in New South Wales to then inspire the next group of guys who are coming up. Because Lions Den's on fire at the moment. But I can wax poetic about Lions Den at a later date. Maybe if I talk to Luke Pizzuti at some point. But I think I would be... in a video where I'm trying to inform you on who the best guys... who you need to keep an eye on for this season of Contenders, I would be amiss to not at least tell you about Marwan Rahiki. And that will bring us to the end of the video. George Mangos fighting on week 1, a fantastic grappler who is proving that striking acumen, fighting out of Lions Den Academy in New South Wales. 22 years old, 21 years old, turning 22 the week after he fights. A young man who is on a tear. The scene is getting behind him. It is Mangos season. Or Mango season, as you would actually read that word. But it's not George Mangos, it's George Mangos. As a clip that he and I filmed in our interview, that should also be going up today on the Instagram, proves to you. It's Mango. Fuck, I just fucked it up. It's Mangos, not Mangoes. Cam Rowston, a man who is getting his third opportunity, and a man who is ready to take that opportunity by the horns. A guy who's going out there to prove that he belongs in the UFC. A guy who is dealing with an opponent switch, but I talked to him about that. When we did the interview, the opponent hadn't changed, but I've spoken to him since off camera about the opponent change. He says it doesn't bother him in the slightest. He's going out there to do the same thing, which is to win the fight. Brando Pericic, a man who has, because of the state of the heavyweight division, has been slingshotted to this opportunity, but I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying he has the least fights of everyone on this card, and that's totally fine. But a guy who, in his own right, is there to achieve greatness. A guy who's there to put Adelaide on the map. I know he's fighting out of New Zealand, but he's there to put Adelaide on the map. A guy who is ready to carve his place in the heavier divisions of the UFC. And Marwan Rahiki, a man who isn't officially booked, but I would not be surprised if he got added later this year. A guy who is carving his own path with his teammate. We got 2 sets of teammates. If all goes well, we've got 2 sets of teammates joining the UFC. And that's who everyone is, and that's what there is to know about them. I've talked to George Mangos a bunch, and I've talked to Cam Rowston a bunch on camera interviews. If you want to look through the channel, I'll also link them in the description. You can see the guys speak in their own words, and Marwan. I've spoken to Marwan before. You can see those guys talk in their own words and get to see them a little bit, which I would greatly recommend doing. I appreciate you guys watching this video thus far. Like and comment and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Let me know what you think of the guys. Do you have opinions on the 4 men that I've spoken about today? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who would you like to see added to this season of Contenders? I want to see Marwan, but maybe someone else will get added. You tell me. Until then, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye now.